It is a brand new episode for the 27th of October, 2025 of Flyers Daily, brought to you by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Interesting start to the season, some comparables to last year that our Monday Insider is going to be questioned upon. We're going to put him on the stand, if you will. Joining us from PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and HockeyHotStove.com, it is Bill Meltzer. Bill, it has been a wild start to the season, and where I want to start is with the game against the Islanders over the weekend.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was important on about 17 different levels.
For sure.
Down 2-0, you get it tied. You go back down, you get it tied. You get it to an overtime and a shootout, you find a way to win. Thought it was a massively important game for Sam Harrison. We can downplay it all we want, but they come away with the win. I think it's a cinder block, a building block on about 10 different levels, the win over the Islanders, who came in winning 4 straight and beating the brakes off of Detroit 7-2.
Yeah. Well, we could start with coming back in the third period and going on to win the game. You know, that in the league, even the worst team in the NHL, the 32nd team, when they're leading after 2 periods, still end up winning about 75% of the time. So to have the Flyers trailing after 2 periods and having won twice already this year, and then getting a point, that was the Carolina game another time, to get 5 points out of those games so far. Now, you don't want to make a habit out of it, of course, and we can talk a little bit about the offensive side and generating shots and chances and getting the inside, getting to the net, but just the resilience of the team. And Noah Kate said it, I think, best after the game on Saturday. He said it's belief. The team believes in itself. You know,
they must listen to the pod.
Yeah,
I did a whole rant on belief and how important it is, but it has to happen organically.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a real thing. We've seen it in sports so many times. How if you build belief organically and you start to get some results by doing the things you're being coached to do, and the shot suppression against the Wild and Winnipeg is no joke. That's 14 and 16 shots against those two teams. There were several. I know Rick Tocchet was asked about it in the Winnipeg game, or no, it was after the Wild game, where they really hemmed the Flyers in. He goes, "Yeah, I got no problem with that because they never got to the inside, and we didn't chase them outside. It was about 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and if you don't chase them and just let them have the outside, there's no harm there."
Yeah, it's not even really a wear down effect either. You know,
because you're not chasing.
Because you're not chasing. So they can move the puck around the perimeter all they want. I mean, you don't want something bouncing in the middle of the ice or mistake to finally happen because you get impatient.
Yeah.
But no, the shot suppression has been tremendous. That's been one of the biggest positives through the first 8 games. So it shows up in the quantity of shots against even that Winnipeg game. The Flyers hardly gave up any shots in that game. Now part of the problem was in the Winnipeg game, and worried me a little bit in the first period against the Islanders too, because they weren't. I think they only gave 4 shots in the first period.
3,
but there was a shorthanded goal. 3, and they gave up a 4-on-2 rush, and they gave up one of the cross seam passes, very similar to the one in the game in Ottawa. It's if you would have gone out of that period trailing 2-0 instead of 1, it's we've said many times on this program, and you've mentioned repeatedly, it's not always the quantity of shots. Sometimes it's the quality and the timeliness of it. So, it was a good thing they got out of the period down 1-0, because when there was a breakdown, even though there weren't many, it created a good chance. And when Arson had to make a save there, he did. He got 2 of the 3 there. You can point to any number of things. They score a shorthanded goal. The second power play, it was Pelech hit the post. Yeah. So there's still things that they need to clean up. But when you look at the whole picture, definitely trending in a lot better direction, no question.
But when you look at last season versus this season, through the first 8 games, the Flyers have given up 15 less goals. This is sort of a small sample size to have a number like 15. If you would have told me 8 less goals, I go, wow, that's really good. But to give up almost 2 goals less average per game is a huge number. But I will tell you, the goaltending's been better, but it's not just the goaltending. This
No.
has really been a team. I think Rick Tocchet has really emphasized the middle of the ice at both offensive and defensive zones.
Yeah.
Like, don't throw pucks in the offensive zone from the outside. Get to the middle. You see them getting more opportunities from the middle than most of their opponents, and conversely protecting the middle back in their D zone. It's so apparent. This is a 5-on-5 situation. Why they've given up 15 less goals. Good, and this is me downplaying goaltending, which you never thought you'd see.
Yeah.
But the goaltending has been better, made saves at the right time situationally, but giving up 15 goals less per game is why the record is 4-3-1 and not 2-5-1 like it was last year.
Not a question. How many times we said too that the team D and goaltending walk hand in hand.
Yeah.
And if the team D is strong enough and the goalie's making the saves, they pick each other up. One of them can help sink the other one, or they can pick each other up, and that's what they've been doing so far. We talk about the offensive side that they definitely need more consistency on the offensive end, but in terms of coming into the year with a priority, first of all, of defending better, they've certainly done that. They've gotten the saves that they need, so they've been in it. They've been in every game.
It's the proper way to start this belief system for Rick Tocchet, because if they believe in the guys back there and their D zone structure, it'll lend into creativity up front. It always does, because when you don't have that belief back there, you play safe as death.
Yeah, for sure. When you and that's where when you get over the blue line and you can and then it's just a question of what risks you want to take. Like passing diagonally or going back towards the blue line sometimes. So it's putting the puck back up high. Still not something you want to do, but you can try to make a play. And if you lose the puck there and if you turn it over. Even a 3-on-2, you're confident your guys get now. Not a 4-on-2 because you don't see tons of those, but but even a 3-on-2, you're pretty confident you can handle that if you do have a turnover there. So, I mean the belief definitely starts from the goal line out, and if you keep doing those things well and consistently have guys in the right place, it does translate to offense eventually.
Yeah. Speaking of offense, it took, I think, till game 25 last year for Tyson Forster to get to goal 3 and game 22 for Owen Tippett to get there. They got there much sooner this year. Tippett's got 5 already. To have those guys go and getting off to a strong start, coupled now with this emergence of Zegras, who I can't undermine how good I thought he was this weekend. Really in all zones. He made some D zone mistakes. And his light gets lessened a little bit at times there, and I think that's okay. I think that's a coach doing the right thing to mitigate a weakness and not make it as consequential. But I mean, you're seeing this skill set from Zegras, and then we hear last week from Talk that he's sending them texts going, "Hey, I got this film I want to watch with you. I think we can do." Like, to me, there's so much buy-in there. This is exactly the attitude production that you want in the kind of deal that they made, where a guy that with a lot of skill needed a change of scenery.
Oh, well, I mean, when you're able to buy low on a guy, and that's with all due respect to Ryan Paling, I thought was a nice player here, but still, you'd make that trade 10 times out of 10 if it's offered to you. And the Flyers had to wait on Zegras because his name came up how many times over the years. Finally, there was an opportunity to kind of buy low on him, and it was fairly low risk in that if it didn't work out, well, he's only signed for this year, and if it does work out, and it certainly has so far, you have a very skilled hockey player, and the plays he's been making. I mean, he's made some incredibly high skilled plays. That pass to Dvorak on that goal, that was
no look.
That was fantastic. Oh my gosh, yeah. And then scores off the draw pass and a gritty goal too by the net on the power play.
Yep. And the pass to Couturier in the Florida game. There's some plays there. I give Mishkov a lot of credit for that play too.
The first pass, yeah.
Yeah, for the pay, he loves it. The late guy. He loves waiting on the late guy and baiting guys to come to him. And he waited, wasn't there, didn't develop, but he goes all the way across the blue line. They stretched him so thin. And then the goalie's got to make a decision in that spot. Is he going to go for the tip, which is what Sorokin thought Dvorak would do? So he played it that way, but Dvorak pulled it around them and stuffs it in. It was a really sensational play.
Yeah.
And then you look at the one Zegras goal that Dvorak assists on. He drives to the middle of the ice, kind of bobbles, regains because he drove the middle. There's Zegras wide open to punch it in past Sorokin as well. That tied it too.
Yeah. Well, that it was nice too. And every game, you know what you're going to get out of the Cates line, right? But to have another line that's clicking now, to have two lines going, I mean, also something we've talked about where you have one line that's kind of your bedrock line, and then the goal from there is to get a second line that's working.
And God forbid a third line. I mean, that top line with Konechny, Couturier, and Tippett's got probably the most points in the team.
Yeah, they're all together at the top there. So yeah, I mean, it all bodes well. I mean, there's still other things obviously that still need to be cleaned up a little bit, to be improved upon. Things like the power play and whatnot. They got the big goal there, but still, 8 games in, one of the things they wanted to do coming into this year was to be better on home ice, particularly with that stretch of 9 or 10 at home, which is almost a quarter of your home schedule, which is crazy. But by the end of October, they've already played 9 home games.
Yeah.
So to actually win these games at home, that's obviously a big thing that they set out to do coming into the year. So that's definitely another positive too. And they just have to keep it rolling though, because things can turn in a hurry, as we know.
Yeah, and they got to keep that going when the Penguins come into town tomorrow, and Nashville will wrap up the month, and the last 2 games of that homestand will be against Toronto and Calgary. Toronto off to a bit of a where are we going kind of start. I'm not sure what we are identity-wise without Marner, and Calgary off to a horrific start so far, but you can't take anyone lightly either before they go to Montreal and Nashville. Bill, just by the eye test, like let's try and purify our minds, become ignorant to systems and anything else, but just by raw eye test, how much different does it look this year to you than it did a year ago? Like and not just look, but like feel. It just feels different to me too. Obviously, it's a fresh start with a new coaching staff, and there's a feel to that, but it just feels all different in the way of like there's just an optimism in the building that I can kind of feel for the first time. You can see it on social media in the summer. That felt like there was, okay, we're finally, it feels like we're really moving in the right direction now.
Yeah. I think one thing you can pick up on, even, up in the press box up top where we are, or watching game, it seems like they're more connected, right? Yeah. And that I think also lends into a sense of optimism because it feels like there's, it feels less haphazard, I think. And that feeling of being
like it's got a purpose.
It has more purpose to it. Coming up the ice as a 5-man unit, which is something that I know that John Torrell harped on over and over again. You have to be connected as a unit coming up the ice, but it didn't feel that way early last season. That was the case. That a lot of times you had one guy trying to beat 3 and he'd lose the puck, or just bad line changes, things like that. Just not guys not being on the same page. The room was close knit, and that was not the issue. But just on the ice, they weren't connected. So to me, that's where the optimism comes from.
Yeah, last year I felt like they were a jazz band, 5 different instruments playing 5 different songs. Yeah. I'm not saying they're a symphony this year yet, but they're much more, pardon the pun, in concert. You know what I mean? Where I think the Case line kind of sets the example, and other lines are starting to feed off that. Just the way they kind of play together and the way they support each other on the ice, and I think a big part of just like this feeling like they're moving in the right direction is like to get that deal done for a guy like Zegras.
Yeah,
like Zegras is one of those guys that had a lot of sizzlers, a lot of excitement about him because of that skill set. He's had a couple of good years, but last couple of years and depressed his value enough for Danny to make that deal. You see that happen because that's something they talked about. Like we got to find those guys with high ceilings, but need to change the scenery. And to have that happen, I think that's an attitude thing that has kind of gone through the fan base, maybe the locker room to some extent.
I think it definitely has. There were, again, it was a close-knit locker room before that. You know, with Scott Lawton and company, and and Farabee and Frost. So they all those guys are close. So it wasn't like it's necessarily a better locker room, but just more of a sense of purpose, I guess.
Yeah. What do you make of Jamie Drysdale? Because his advanced numbers are off the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, they are really off the charts. Like tops in the league at expected goals for on offense. He and Nick Seeler. The production's not there. I feel like he's defending decently better. What do you make of Jamie Drysdale right now, early in the season, along with Nick Seeler in that second pairing?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've been impressed with has been how well he's used his feet, which is one of his biggest assets.
Yeah.
Not just joining the play up the ice, but skating the puck out of trouble sometimes too. And just
he did it in overtime in the one game when Vladar keeps it alive.
Yeah, well, without that whole sequence, there is no goal.
Yep.
But no, so I think the biggest thing with Jamie still is that I want to see the bottom line production with him, because that's why he was drafted where he was drafted, right? I don't want him to be, and I'm not diminishing how important it is, but he's moving the puck really well. As I said, like he's defending better, but they need the offensive spark from the blue line. Now, Sanheim's been providing some of that, honestly, but and York has the potential to do so. It had the 3 assist game the other day too, but no, I think Drysdale's been playing well and playing confidently, and he's definitely much stronger physically over the last couple of years. But I still think there's more to give from Drysdale. So while I think he's playing great, and the numbers back it up for what he's doing well for the team, I maybe it's being greedy, but I want to see the points come with it.
Let's see a half a point per game player there, like at least 38 to 45 point range consistently is mine.
I think he can be. I think it's there for him. So
yeah. I mean, you go back and you go to that Gostisbehere year. I think he had 65 points or 64 points. That's rare from a defenseman. That's not Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes. But to me, there's got to be a 42 point player there as well for Jamie Drysdale with the skills he has. I think it's absolutely achievable. I think that there's a little bit of it. There's a little bit of he's got to believe that he can make that difference offensively to it. There's a little mental part to it, I think, too, that Rick Tocchet needs to unlock. And speaking of that, I don't know where they go tomorrow night in goal. You don't have a goalie controversy here. They went 3 straight with Vladar. He didn't come out because he wasn't good in the game against the Ottawa Senators. They had to get Sam in. Sam in the third period makes that unbelievable blocker save to keep it tied on the 2-on-1 on Drouin. And then he makes the save in overtime, which is absolutely ridiculous glove save in the spread. And then he's always been good in the shootout. I don't know where you go Tuesday against Pittsburgh, because, like I said, no guys warranted being out. Sam was really good in that game. You're still not in the situation where you're dealing with, back-to-backs until you get to next weekend, where you're going to split the Toronto and Calgary the last 2 games. I probably just go to Harrison on Tuesday and go to Vladar on Thursday, and then split them this weekend.
Yeah,
and give Vladar Calgary for sure.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be a big game for him. Just playing against your former team.
Yeah, so I lay out my week though. I go Pittsburgh because Sam just played. I give him Pittsburgh, and then Nashville. Maybe you saw more of Nashville in the Western Conference. I make the excuse for Vladar on Thursday. Saturday, I give Toronto to Erson, and Sunday it's obvious I give Calgary, and I just set my goalies for the week and set it and forget it, like the old oven thing.
Yeah. I mean, right now it's a good problem to have. Is that you're not forced to go with one guy. So I might go with Vladar against the Penguins, but with nothing against Sam, just because he's been in that nice role, particularly, So I might go back because you're splitting next weekend anyway. But any which way you divided with the obvious split over the weekend, I think you could justify it either way, honestly.
Yeah, with the 4 games this week, to me, it's you go 2-2 with each goalie, and it's just a matter of when who goes when, and maybe there's some matchup things there too. I don't know.
Yeah.
The only obvious one, though, obviously, is Calgary and Vladar because that was his last stop. But when you look at kind of the ins and outs of the fourth line, the only consistent part of it's been Garnet Hathaway. We've seen Obels come in, and I think Obels, like the other, on key draws, he's really good at face-offs, and he brings some size. And I thought that was important in that game the other day, the way things went against the Islanders and dealing with Anders Lee and some of those guys. And Gurbenkin, I just don't know if Gurbenkin's one of those guys that's going to play, every game through this entire season. I think there's a lot of teaching going on there still with Gurbenkin.
Yeah.
So I think he gets, 7 out of every 10 at least, maybe 8 out of every 10. But there's going to be a few nights off here and there because there still is a lot of teaching to be done.
Yeah. But you can definitely see hints of what a finished product might look like with him,
and Talk liking it.
And Talk liking it. Yeah. He wins a lot of battles down low, and he is one guy who will get to the net for you. Mm-hmm. It adds an element to the fourth line where they're not just a checking line. They can contribute something offensively as well. So, but there's definitely still mistakes, and they happen every game, and that's fine because
he's a little drifty in the neutral zone for me sometimes.
It's still, and there's still some support plays where he's not in the right spot too, particularly in the D zone. But the effort is there, and you can see how engaged he is to want the information and to want to learn. So he'll get there. But I agree that playing 7 out of 10 games, 8 out of 10 games, whatever the case might be, and he might need to sit a game here or there, but he's a guy I've been happy with. It's particularly remember that he went into camp really. It was really Alex Bump's job to lose, to a degree, and Gurbenkin beat him out on merit, and Gurbenkin is just pretty much more or less kept rolling. So it's again still really early, but happy with the early returns.
What I don't know where to go with Chetlachenko at this point. I really don't. The lack of willingness to shoot, I think, is always going to be something fans are going to complain about. He's always going to be a play driving center. But maybe the lower body injury that he dealt with in camp has him not on all cylinders to begin. I think he's looked a little better lately. But inning out of the lineup, you think this 9-ish game look extends close to Thanksgiving, maybe even beyond for him?
It very well could. I know the feeling is that he doesn't have too much more of anything to accomplish in Guelph. So I would think that they keep him around, practices with the team, gets into a few more games, and then they make the decision. They also have the option. You don't want a guy sitting too long, right? You want him playing. But they do have an option of he's sitting for a little while longer. Then you could do a few games with the Phantoms and a conditioning stint.
Yeah.
That is an option if they choose to look at that route. So there are options before they have to make that final decision on the OHL versus the NHL. But I personally prefer they make it sooner than later.
I think the middle ground doesn't confuse them, but it's a weird feeling.
And especially if you ultimately end up going down. Yeah. Right. It's just human nature that it's a little bit hard to go back to your junior team and then,
feel traveling in a charter jet and 5-star hotels.
Getting back on the bus again. Right.
Yeah.
On a team that's not really going anywhere. They are better than last year. Guelph is better, but they're not that much better. So, so it's unfortunate. I wish the rule was in place this year where they could send them to the American League, but it's not. So you have to deal with the reality. I thought that he showed a little bit of progress his last game out, not just because he had a shot on goal, but just being a little bit more assertive, a little bit more confident. But there's still a ways to go. So
last thing, Bill, how do you feel like Mishkov is there? How far, do you think things are going to click together here soon for him? Because it just doesn't look like the mind is in perfect harmony with the feet.
It's not, but I think there's been progress over the last few games, not just because he's picked up a couple of assists, just
I think because of intensity.
Yeah. I think it's baby steps. He needs some bigger steps, but I think he'll be fine. Ultimately, I think he'll be fine, not just for his career, but ultimately for this season. He's not where he needs to be yet, but I'll take the baseball analogy. If a guy hits 215 in April, it seems like the end of the world. But then he comes on over the rest of the year, you long since forget about it by the middle of the season. And if he's going to struggle, it might as well be the first couple of weeks when there's more practice time between games. It's a little more forgiving. So there are definitely things that he needs to clean up and improve upon. But you can see it at least slowly starting to fall in place. Not just in terms of making more plays, but just in general, seeming a little bit more settled in. So I really want to see that in the Pittsburgh game and in the games that follow that. And if he can do that and progress a little bit more, get a little better each game, then hopefully we'll be having these conversations in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no doubt. Busy week ahead. Pittsburgh tomorrow night, Nashville Thursday, Toronto on Saturday, and Calgary on Sunday, all at Xfinity Mobile Arena. We'll have a lot to discuss next week when Bill returns for his weekly visit on another Mondays with Meltzer. Read Bill's work at PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and HockeyHotStove.com. And we'll preview Flyers Penguins tomorrow on a brand new Flyers Daily.